Nothing like a good shit. Hello and welcome to Gateway Cinema, converting a Nolan fanboy episode 7. Today we're talking about Memento from 2000 and Haine from 1995. Yeah, we're going to be calling it the English pronunciation, or butchering Haine probably for the rest of the podcast. But we know, guys, we know it's called Haine. Yeah.
Should we just call it hate? The translation
is
hate.
Yeah. Today we're talking about hate.
Damn, what a name. This movie is perfect. I love it in every single way. I'm just going to get right into it, to be honest. I know we said we were going to all take turns doing intros, but I was just going to ask which one of you farted, because that happens in the movie. And in fact, actually, I'd like to kick things off. Who do you think farted in that moment?
Hubert.
You think Hubert farted? I actually think Vince farted and then tried to double bluff Hubert.
It's definitely a Vince thing to do now that I think about it.
It is.
I just thought Hubert was quite defensive about it. Do you know what I mean?
But Vince was the one who laughed near the end. But I suppose Hubert's kind of a hard person to read.
Whoever smelled it dealt it, so whoever says it first, I think, would be
the worst.
The court's finding, yeah.
Fair. So, we're starting with Haine, yeah? Cool.
So normally we
No,
we're not. We don't.
Nolan.
We start with
Nolan.
But first, yeah. But first, I think last week we started employing this. Let's go around and say which one we preferred.
Oh, okay. What? This is gonna be Go on.
Ben first.
Me first.
I think so.
All right. Lane, hands down, easily.
Haine, hands down. Good God.
Easily.
That's actually a big dub. That's a big dub.
Well, to be honest though, they are I love them both. I really like both these movies. So.
Yeah, it's close for me, but one is my
it's not close.
Favorite film of all time.
Yeah.
We all preferred Haine though, right?
Yeah.
I like Memento. Memento. I really like Memento.
I love Memento.
Fantastic. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic movie. Haine is one of the best movies ever created, though. So, in my from what I've seen so far, is an absolutely top shelf. This is a perfect film. We'll get into that.
I'd have to
when
agree.
We get into that. But yeah.
So should we go first into Memento then? Yeah. Okay. So when was the first time you guys all watched Memento, and how many times have you seen it, if more than once?
So I watched Memento for the first time. It was when I was at uni. So I've mentioned this before earlier in the podcast series, but I went to uni having seen the 3 Batman films and Inception, and I called myself a Nolan fan. And then I met a bunch of people who said, "Oh, have you seen The Prestige then?" They listed off a bunch of other films. I said, "No." And they said, "Oh, right, so you're not actually a Nolan fan." And Memento is one of the early films that I watched as like part of this process of actually becoming a proper Nolan fanboy. And yeah, the first time I watched Memento, I remember thinking that was the first film by Nolan that I actually disliked. And to this day, I think it remains the only film by Nolan that I do actually dislike, because I think with all the rest of them, I either love them, I either like them a lot, or I'm just indifferent to them. And there is only one other film that I'm actually indifferent to, that I'm like pretty neutral about. I neither like it nor dislike it. But this is the only film of his that I actually do dislike, and I think I've now seen it 3 times. Yeah, I'll get into the reasons why I dislike it. Yeah, and it's related to the disease I fear the most. That's my hook, and I'll get back to it when it comes back around to me. So who's next?
Okay. What about you, Haroon?
I have seen this movie in total. I'll probably say I've seen it 3 times. I've seen the movie 3 times over the course of the years, and it gets better and better the more I think my brain seems to understand film better and better. And understand Nolan. I think as we've done this Nolan series, like I'm starting to get this guy a bit more now. This one is theme heavy and it's theme concise as well. Naturally, there are only so many characters, about 3 or 4 basically.
Yeah,
it's just a really well focused, well written, genuinely really funny movie, and incredibly compelling story, to be honest. And we know he loves to fuck with time, and maybe in previous Nolan movies I've spoken about how the non-linearity for the sake of making the movie as complex as it could be is unnecessary in lots of instances. But for example, how about a movie about somebody with short-term memory loss? Like,
it's complete genius.
Case.
Fucking
it's
narrative
perfect
device.
Case. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's close to a perfect movie. It's, in my opinion, still not as immaculate as The Prestige, but yeah, I had a really good time with this one, and I like the runtime as well. I think I quite like my movies not 2.5 hours long. I'll be honest. The 90-minute mark is really
same.
There's
I
something
like
about
a good
it.
90 minutes, like maximum 2-hour movie. Like I love the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, but like if you just
it's the perfect runtime. Yeah, I don't mind a long film if I don't know. Sometimes I really want to live in the world. Like I don't know. I don't want Killers of the Flower Moon to end and stuff like that. Like I like a long movie, but it has to be done right. As far as when I saw the movie, I think I first saw it. This is only my second time watching it, and I probably watched it about 10 years ago because it was on. I got it on Love Film, which was like Amazon Prime's Netflix DVD.
Wow. Oh, same.
So it was whenever that era was.
My mum cancelled it after for 6 months. We just kept the same DVD and never bothered sending it back to get a new one. So.
What was the DVD?
Yeah, we sent DVDs. No, we did eventually return it, but we just kept on paying the monthly thing. And Mum found out, like, when did you actually last use this? She was, 6 months ago.
What was the film? What film? It
was it's a film that probably never gets mentioned these days. It features the girl in Bridge to Terabithia.
Is it Soul Surfer?
No, it's something
like...
Was
it Race to Witch Mountain?
Is it Rebel Ridge?
But it features the word dark. That's all I remember.
Okay.
Is it like is it called Fear the Dark?
The Reaping? Down a Dark Hill.
Nah. It's a really basic
dark.
Name.
Dark.
I'm struggling to remember.
Down a Dark Hill.
Well, forget about it then.
It's
down
something like Fear the
Dark. Down a Dark Hall. Down a Dark Hall.
Nah.
It's Uma Thurman and it's that one.
It's got the word dark in it, and that actress.
She has played some of the movies that I've seen that are just bad. I mean, not bad, but like Jumper, Race to Witch Mountain. I really like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp from 2005. I think that's a controversial take, but I actually love that.
Does she play the fucking bubble?
I like it as well.
No.
Yes, she does. Yeah, she does.
Crazy.
She's in Soul Surfer. I've seen that too, where she gets eaten by a shark and then she learns how to surf again. Stupid ass film. Right, let's move on.
All right. Yeah, fuck that shit. Okay, so yeah, that's when I saw it. Then I watched it, 10 years later or whatever. Yeah, it's really good. It's one of my favourite Nolan films, and I'm excited to see why Ben is wrong in hating it.
He doesn't.
Well, first of all, I'm not denying that it's a good film. I agree that it's got a really good narrative device, and the fact that it actually fits with the character and fits with him really,
it's going to be a personal
really well.
thing that you're scared of, like amnesia or dementia or something, right?
It's not so much that. It's more like, okay, so yeah, let me link it back to the hook that I gave earlier. So what I don't like about Memento is this. The character, he will make various notes. He'll find out various, scraps of information. Doesn't always end up being actual knowledge, because sometimes it ends up being false. and he doesn't realize it because how could he? His like context only lasts for something like 2 or 3 minutes, and he goes straight back down to zero again, pretty much. And you pretty much get that on repeat time and time again. And even though you, as an audience member, are gaining knowledge about how he arrived at, at E when you eventually go back to, say, step A, I personally don't like seeing somebody constantly go back to square one. Like, they never actually develop in terms of their understanding of the place they're in, why they're there. And I think there's something else as well. I think this is something that I also just don't like seeing on screen in general. The characters are really, really manipulative of him. And I think what's so tragic about it is that he literally has no power over this. Like, it's not as if he has somebody coming from the outside and saying, "Oh, by the way, your relationship with this person is really, really fucked up."
So you don't like that because they're a manipulative.
You don't like the point.
Movie.
Why does that make the movie like not that you said it's objectively bad, but why to you does that make it bad when that's like the intention and the point and the whole, meaning?
Oh
of
no,
the
I
film?
think the reason why I dislike as much as I do is because when it comes to what their intention is, which is to do that, they do such a good job at it and they execute it really well. But I just find it really unsettling seeing that on screen, and yeah, like I really don't like it.
That would make me like it though, if it makes
crazy.
me like.
Sorry. This is mad. What you're saying. So when a horror film scares you and you feel scared, is that a bad film because they got you and they made you feel scared?
Yeah, but I like feeling scared. I like that kind of thrill.
But this is also supposed to be an unsettling movie. So the way the characters treat other characters is manipulative, and they do such a good job of it, and they screw them over so badly.
It makes you hate the film.
You hate the film. It makes you hate the film.
Well, I just hate the experience.
Like the movie.
I hate the experience of seeing those people manipulate him, like running circles around him. And it's not just the fact they do that, but the fact that he's just so.
And so does that make it a bad
film?
film?
No, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's made me, as an audience member, like not have a good experience watching this because I found it quite unsettling personally. Doesn't make it a bad film.
What about like the zone of interest?
Yeah, I'm. That film.
That's a good movie, and you enjoyed that one.
Nah, I wouldn't say I enjoyed that one. I think it does a very good job of depicting evil. And that
You're
and
such
that
a
film
funny
did
character,
stay-
Ben.
You are crazy. You're a crazy person in headphones.
It's so funny. The psychology behind why you like and dislike things is really interesting, and this podcast will go on for years trying to understand it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it just, I don't know. I really didn't like it. Just seeing this guy being manipulated like systematically and having circles run around him, and also, so I think now it's appropriate for me to talk about the illness I fear most. There are obviously many horrible illnesses you can have. I was going to say later on in life, but just at any point in life. Ebola.
Thanks, Matt.
Testicular cancer, brain tumor,
testicular torsion.
Yeah, like horrible stuff. But I think for me,
lots of illnesses
the illness that I've always
Syphilis.
feared the most since I've been, since I've probably been aware of what disease is and been aware of this particular disease, is a neurodegenerative one, especially Alzheimer's. Because ultimately, I think a huge part of who you are is memory. And I was talking to Haroon about this at lunch today.
Yeah.
And the fact
absolutely.
that there is a disease that can cause you to actually start losing your memories of your friends, of your loved ones, the things you really value, like the films you really like, the books you love, just like loads and loads of things. And the idea that slowly disintegrates, I think you pretty much see like the slow decay of a self. And for me, there's just something that I find really, really scary about that. And there's just something so like pitiful about this character. And again, like I said, he literally has no control over it. And yeah, I think that's a big reason.
Is this a real disease? Is this a real condition?
Alzheimer's is a real condition.
No, not that. No, the one that Leonard
disease,
has.
No, the one that Leonard has. I think it probably is out there. It must do. It must be. But I think I just want to talk about Ben's point a little more. No, Ben, you're like straight on the money, really. It is hell on earth. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, to be around, I've never experienced that, but I'm assuming it must be hell on earth.
It's what makes it brilliant. You can be
Yes.
sad and disturbed and distressed by a film and it be brilliant.
That's
Speaking of emotion though, and how you know, we've talked about Nolan and his emotions. What did you guys think about the emotional journey of this film? Because I have a note about this and how I think this isn't, I wouldn't call this an emotional film, but I think it's his most empathetic film and tragic film.
I disagree. I think The Prestige is his most empathetic film and tragic film. But I think at the end, right at the end, what ties it all up and makes the entire film work magically is, and he is so good at making things work magically, is when he decides, right, I'm just going to keep chasing you. I need a direction here. You're my next target.
Yeah.
You're my next John G. Like that, there is something so special about that moment, I think.
Yeah, very sinister.
I'm not sure about empathetic, but I think now that you actually say it, I'm thinking about all of Nolan's films. I think this definitely does win on the tragedy part, because at the end of the day, it is his fault. I mean, I guess as much as you could argue that he's still the same person, because obviously he grows a little bit as a person, then goes back to square one, grows a little bit back to square one, back to square one. But yeah, I mean, this is all his fault. I mean, like the what's he called? The Teddy guy tells him, like, we killed the guy ages ago, and yeah, he needs the purpose, so he's set up a new John G, and then he does the exact same thing all over again. And like he is, in a weird way,
very tragic.
Yeah, in a weird way, it is entirely, his error that he's made.
Despite all the manipulation of everyone around him that we see throughout the film, at the end of the day, it's his choice to like keep himself in the dark and keep himself
he's manipulated himself pretty much, hasn't he? By the end.
What does that say about all of us? Do we lie to ourselves every day to keep ourselves happy?
Yeah. And that's a lot about what a lot of Nolan's films are about that, really, aren't they? Oh, because that's happened in Haine.
Never mind. I'll make that connection when we cross that bridge.
Okay.
I think this was definitely one of the films that I think most explicitly focuses on like Nolan's take on knowledge, because he's talking about like the flawed nature of memory, and then there's the fact that at the end there was a really good line I actually noted down. What was it? You don't want the truth, you make up your own truth. Pretty much like what you were saying earlier. And there is something that I think that does come up time and time again in Nolan's films, and I think I'll need to wait until we actually finish this series for me to say whether I think what I'm about to say is conclusive. But he does seem to have this view that like discovering or acquiring knowledge actually is either dangerous or really dissatisfying. I think on the dissatisfying front, this film definitely hits on that point. That he discovers that he did actually kill his wife's murderer. That's not good enough for him, so he just tells himself a lie.
It's also about the sort of chase of meaning, because once that man is dead in his life, and he is basically this empty shell of a figure who can't even remember 10 seconds ago, him having something to move towards is something that would motivate you to, be something or try something. And it's quite the motivator to find the person that raped and killed your wife, isn't it? And you, in a weird way, wouldn't want to lose that if you were like him and completely brain damaged. So you get you get to stay on the mission, basically, is what the idea is. And yeah.
So from his perspective, yeah, sure, right. But I was thinking about this and I wrote this down. What the fuck is Teddy doing, man? Like, is he a serial killer? He just lets this guy keep going and murdering people. Surely that makes him a serial killer, because to some extent Leonard can't help it because he can't. He does. He can help it because he tricks himself into thinking he hasn't killed him. But Teddy's just going along with it, like, yeah, fuck it, let's go get another guy. Like, what the fuck is wrong with Teddy, man? If we trust Teddy, which obviously there's a lot of doubt. But yeah, what a crazy fucking thing.
Yeah, because
like when he's like just having a go at him, like we got the guy already. It's like you're the one like leading him here, mate.
Yeah, because
we've done this like 10 times now.
I can't remember what it's called, but there's something in the law that says, I think so. Let's say you discover that somebody did something like really, really bad, like really, really horrible, and in that moment you act to try and kill them, and let's say you do kill them. I've heard that in the law there is actually some account taken into that, so the fact that if you like fresh in the moment, you've discovered something that makes you incredibly angry. Whereas as time goes on, your head then held to be more responsible for your actions. So if you discover that in the moment and then 10 seconds later you try to kill him, there's more leeway for you apparently than if, say, 10 minutes later you're still pursuing this person trying to kill them. Because
sure, it's like a crime of passion versus like premeditated murder.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's weird about Leonard is that even though, what happened to his wife was like a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, it's still fresh in his memory. But either way, like the fact that the only memory he actually has is of his wife dying means that it's almost like he's constantly in that passion state where literally the last memory he has is seeing his wife die in front of him. That definitely does make Teddy a lot more responsible than he would be if this guy actually had full memories for the last year or two.
Just a side note, if no one's got anything to say, we'll obviously get back to the plot. But did you know Nolan wrote this to OK Computer, and he originally wanted Paranoid Android to be the end credits song, but it was too expensive.
Oh, yeah, that would have been pricey.
Which makes sense. It's very similar vibe.
I don't know either
how.
of those songs.
So that's interesting you say Paranoid Android, because as I was watching this movie, the first note I wrote down is it reminds me of a story taking place within the Matrix. But that's primarily because not Lenny, Teddy is in the Matrix.
Joey
and
Pants.
He's the guy that makes the deal with the virus in the Matrix.
Yeah,
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. Another note about him is Nolan didn't want him originally, and Carrie-Anne Moss from The Matrix was like, nah, get this guy. And another note that brings us back to episode 1 of this podcast is Joey Pants was later in The Sopranos and got his wig modelled after Christopher Nolan, and we used a picture of them side by side in the first episode of this podcast.
Oh, I thought you just put that there because you thought it looked like him. I didn't realise it actually was.
No,
yeah, he modelled.
The
wig was modelled.
Matt's been going back in time this entire podcast.
I've been planting seeds since episode 1. Yeah, Tenet style.
Exactly. All right, I've got lots of funny moments that happened in Memento because there are so many funny moments.
Can I actually just say what my funniest moment was? Because I know that I've said that it was pretty horrible to watch, but I will admit the point when he knocks down, I think it's either door 9 or door 6.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I thought,
funny.
that's pretty funny actually. And
Imagine
I think
being
what's
that
even funny
guy.
is that wasn't even because of his memory loss. It was literally because he was holding the pad of paper upside down.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was kind of memory loss because he would have known that he wrote a 6 or a 9. But yeah, that was pretty good.
There's so many little moments like that when he knocks out the boyfriend of the only female character in this movie, who by the way I think is written quite well. He knocks him out.
I agree. Yeah.
He knocks him out, puts him in the bathroom, shuts the door, forgets about him.
That's funny.
And then he wakes up and he's like, "Shit, there's someone locked in the bathroom. There's a gun in here. What's going on?" And then Teddy comes along, comes into the room, and he's like, "What's going on? You called me. What's happening?" And he's like, "Come here." He's like, "Look at this."
Do you know this guy?
And he opens the door. He's like, "Who the fuck is that?" And then Teddy's like, "Who the fuck is that?" And then it's like, "I don't know." I have no idea.
So funny.
He just shuts the door again. But yeah, and then there's another good moment where he's running, and there's someone chasing him, and he's like, okay, and he wakes up mid-run. He's like, okay, what am I doing here? Oh, I'm chasing that guy.
Yeah,
okay.
that bit's funny.
And then he runs over to him, and then the other guy shoots, and he's like, oh no, he's chasing me.
That's like the only thing I remember from my first watch. Like that was like the standout moment from like my memory of this film. It's funny, man.
It's really funny. And what's really good about it as well is it's not forced. Like, I don't know how, but I think the character of Leonard, he is like slightly whimsical as a result of his like mental disorder, but also I think he's actually funny as well. I think he is genuinely funny.
Yeah. I think Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan said that they needed to like make it funny to not be just the most miserable fucking film you've ever seen. Although it didn't quite work for Ben.
There was some comic relief.
Oh, and also like when they're spitting in his drink, it's like, oh, it's a spit contest.
Oh god,
like...
yeah.
That scene where Natalie is like just saying a bunch of slurs and shit and calling his wife a whore.
That's
what
crazy.
do you think of that scene? It's a really good scene
because she puts the pens away so he can't write anything down.
Yeah. It's so
horrible
cool. It's so nasty.
Nastiest person. But she is tortured. She's a tortured soul, and she just wants this outlet.
Is she? Maybe.
And yes, she is. She's she gets beat by a nasty husband.
I don't know if that's true though. Because he's the one who hit her. No, she's lying about that because he's the one who hits her after that scene.
No, but he is also but she also does try and make him kill her husband or boyfriend as well. That's the guy that comes after him with a gun that's 6'3". I say 6'3" because he writes that in his notes.
I actually wanted to say something else about this. So I noticed there were quite a few people who are in this film who definitely appear in Nolan's later works. Two particular people as well.
The Batman Begins man.
Yes. Yeah, the guy who says, "Why you don't like falafel?" Yeah, I think he's called.
The guy at the
motel.
Yeah, the motel guy. And then there was another guy. You know when you see what's he called? Sammy. You know when Sammy's being
Stephen Tobolowsky.
Stephen Tobolowsky. Yeah. I by the way, I know him as the villain in Garfield 1. He'll always have that place in my heart.
I have my Netflix avatar as him, and because my brother changes the names and icons of our whole family every now and again, and so I'm currently called Happy Chappy, and it's Stephen Tobolowsky from whatever fucking sitcom he's in on Netflix.
He's a great actor as well. I don't think I've seen him in many other things, but in Memento, he was super.
He's just in stuff.
So, where are we with Memento? I'm kind of. I could say a couple more things just to round things off, and if anybody's got some more, to say,
same.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm fine with closing thoughts. Yeah, I just think that the narrative device is it's just actually genius. And I hate to call Nolan a genius because it just seems like a funny thing to do. But it's so genius. You go on the journey of not knowing what's just happened with the character, and it's so profoundly clever. And I can't believe I think there's a couple movies that maybe did the backwards thing before, but as far as I'm aware, it's not to the same purpose as, you're literally empathizing with the character as much as physically possible because you don't know anything, just like he doesn't know anything. Fucking genius. My other notes are that he belongs in a hospital, and I'm surprised that he's not in one, although I guess there's that flash where he is in the hospital when we're looking at Sammy, whatever his name is. What was the guy's name?
So I wanted to make a point about this because you know how he says he can't form new memories? That happened.
Yeah,
so
there's plot holes.
The concoction of Sammy does show that he can form new memories, although I guess this is more of a fantasy than a memory. But I think that is interesting that you can still actually, retain some stuff.
Memory is a weird.
Yeah, he always knows he's looking for his wife, Skilla.
Yeah, Heretic actually taught me this little bit of knowledge. Every time you remember something, you're not actually remembering the thing. You're remembering the last time you remembered it.
Interesting.
Ben's calculating that. And the results are... Yeah, carry the 2. Mate. Where are we? Do you believe me or not?
I don't know.
I'm a horrible
there's a lot of plot holes. Because he doesn't look at his tattoos every time he wakes up from... not remembering what's going on. But he always knows that he's looking for his wife.
No,
but to be fair,
he's building subconscious intuition.
They
That's
give
what
it
he's
an out by
developing.
implying that it's psychological and not physical.
Yeah.
So they do give it an out.
No. They give it an out by him saying that when Sammy Jenkins was conditioned to not choose certain shapes, he wasn't able to choose certain shapes, and thus he was an outlier. Yet we find out that he himself is Sammy Jenkins. But it still doesn't work though, because he kind of has conditioned himself to check for tattoos. So it's a weird one. That's definitely sort of a plot.
Yeah, it's a plot hole, but it just doesn't matter to me personally.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's like it's a guy that can't remember anything. We're literally watching the listenings and ramblings of a person that can't remember literally what he had for breakfast. So you got to sort of take all of that with a pinch of salt and enjoy the journey, man. Anyways, Ben, what did you give us some round off thoughts of Memento?
I mean, I haven't really got too much to add. I mean, I think, like you said, it is really, really clever, and also, like, this is only his second feature film, because I think the only other one he did was Following. But I think this actually had, I think I can't remember the name of the actual company that he worked with, but this actually was with a production company, whereas Following was all like done by him.
All right. So are we gonna just move on to Haine now? I think we've all given
if you got no final thoughts, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I think so.
Good commentary on philosophy would be the last thought from me, and on to the next, I suppose.
So Haine, directed by my French counterpart Mathieu Kassovitz. That's similar to my name for all those who don't know. Yeah. 1995. 30 years old and more relevant than ever. Sadly so.
I think racism is always going to be relevant.
Unfortunately. But yeah, to get into my reasoning for picking it, initially it was just like, oh, I just want to do this because it's my second favorite film of all time. Maybe my favorite film of all time. We'll see.
What's the other one?
But
What's the contender?
Goodfellas.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I don't know. It's a good film. So yeah, I just wanted to do it, and I was sort of like, oh, it's both of their second films, both the director's second films. I think old Matthew from France had made one film before, another low budget one. I think Hubert and Vincent Cassel were both in it as well, but I don't think it's not really available online or anything. And yeah, both obviously feature black and white. But whilst thinking about it, another point of comparison would be like the linearity of it, because obviously Memento is as non-linear as it gets. Half is going forward, half is going backwards. Whereas La Haine is literally time-stamped over 20 hours and is going completely forward with no variation on that. So a completely non-linear film versus a completely linear film.
You could just say you suggested it because you love it.
Because I wanted to watch it. But it's definitely a point of comparison. What do you guys think of it?
I really liked it.
We'll let Ben go first.
Wouldn't say that I loved it, but I did like it a lot. Really, really nicely shot. I mean, I know it's made in the mid-90s, but whatever they're doing at BFI with their Blu-ray discs, it's working. Looks really, really crisp, and yeah, the black and white just works really well with this film. I think what I liked about it as well was that so after I finished watching the film, there was like a little commentary clip that the BFI provide along with their disc, and I think it talks about, I think a film critic talking about what he thinks it's about, and he talks about how the film really is more than anything about rebellion. And I think when he puts it that way, I like the fact that you didn't just have a character like Vince, who is just, a hothead who just wants to like go out and pretty much just like destroy. I like the fact that you've got the contrast with Hubert, who is by far and away my favourite of the three. I don't know who's the favourite of the three for each of you, but I really like the inclusion of his character and the fact that you have somebody who is really serious about escaping from. I'm not going to say the French word. I'm just going to butcher it, but like the equivalent of like the project, so to speak. And he's really desperate to actually escape, but he wants to do it in a really sort of thoughtful, methodical way. And I thought it was just really nice seeing like the contrast between like that kind of character and then the character of Vince. And then the third guy, like I thought I don't know what you two thought about him. And I'm not against his inclusion, but I felt like he was there for a bit more of like comic relief, which I did like. But I don't know, I didn't really think he added like a sociological aspect, if I want to use that word. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, the Arab guy.
Yeah, the short one.
Saeed.
Yeah, that's
and his friend Abdul. Didn't add any.
Oh yeah.
Commentary.
Who was his friend?
On colonial France.
But as in the third guy, like
right,
in terms of what his like personality was like.
Yeah, I guess he is the most comic relief. I think he's my favorite, Saeed. But yeah, Haroon's dying to say something. So
fair enough.
So go ahead, Haroon.
Sorry, yeah, let's just get out of that. So basically, Ben, I was going to ask you there. So do you see all of these characters as independent from one another?
As in, wait, elaborate.
As
on
in
that.
who they are. As in who they are. Their core characteristics. For instance, you say that Vince is like. I mean, it feels a bit unfair because there is a lot of depth to this movie, and I've seen it like 5 times. So there's a lot to get from it, and so I'm not gonna hound you for not getting it, or I wouldn't if I didn't enjoy it so much. So away we go. Away we go. So when you watch the movie, do you see Vince as just this? Oh, he's just a hothead, and Huber's sort of like a cool, calm guy, and then so he's just like the funny character. Is that sort of like how you see things?
I wouldn't say it's just that, but I think this is the point that Kassovitz was trying to make. I think he was trying to, with those 3 characters, I think he was trying to show like 3 different sides. I think he says of Paris, but I think it does seem to be specifically about that kind of area in Paris. But I wouldn't say
3 different
like,
sides
he's just
of the
a
projects.
or... Yeah, I think that's how he described it anyway. But no, I think so I wouldn't say Hubert is just this like just a cool guy, but I think with Hubert he seems to have a lot more. How can I say? He seems to be a lot more rational in the sense that he also sees the injustice that the police are committing against people he knows, like not just people he knows, but also like himself. But I think what I like about Hubert is the fact that he's always like it's almost like he's always looking ahead and he's thinking, okay, this is terrible, but what would my actions actually do in this situation? How would this actually help me? And I just liked how thoughtful he was and how methodical he was about what he did. And I liked the fact that you had the inclusion of that character in it, whereas Vince is somebody who I think is he has a lot more rage about him. And I think it is pretty fundamental to their characters.
So I always thought when I watched this movie is that Vince is basically somebody that wants to be respected. He wants to be a gangster. He wants to be seen on the street as somebody to be feared and respected by, just like that classic sort of teen wannabe gangster archetype. And I think he bounced off of obviously that his friends are the reason he's like that in part is because of Hubert, who actually does have credibility to his name. He is incredibly capable. He handles himself because he's very rational, and Vince is actually very jealous of that. Not jealous, but he's inspired by it a lot. He's really inspired by it. To an extent, idolizes it. That's quite clear when they're on the roof and they're having a chat about Vince, instead of doing community service, going to prison for a month. And he was like, why the fuck would you go to prison for a month? Yeah. It's because Vince is like, I kind of want some street cred, like I'm not even in your league yet. See, it's that sort of chase for credibility and respect.
And just tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think if I remember correctly, didn't Hubert say something like, I've never been inside? Did he say something like that?
Yeah. They never caught me,
They never caught me.
But he is also, like, he clearly has some illegal, like, operation going on. I can't remember, I don't know if he deals drugs or something, but there's definitely some sort of, like, money handling situation. And he says, like, I could have got you a gun and stuff. So we know that he, like, is sort of...
He's about it.
Yeah, he's about it. Yeah, I mean, the same sort of thing that Haroon was saying, like, Vince wants the respect but doesn't have it. Hubert has the respect but doesn't need it. And Saeed sort of is in between, where, like, you know, his brother's clearly a big guy on the block, and he wants that respect.
Saeed is the audience insert character. Sorry to interrupt, but Saeed is the audience insert character to be there and experience this world and these guys as we can experience this world and these guys. And also, just in that same vein, talking about Vince's desperation for credibility and respect, the parable that's told by a short man coming out of the toilets after the two argue about why Vince decided to bring the gun to Paris and to the hospital where Abdul is being nursed to health. There's a short man that walks out, and it's a hilarious shot. The stall door opens as the argument is happening, and there's nothing on the screen, and then it pans down to this tiny little man that walks out, and he goes on about this. It's a parable. It's like Grunwalski, exactly. And long story short is that there is a man that's running for the train, and you don't know where that train will take you. Anyways, so there's a man running for the train. That was from Inception. Doesn't matter. Oh. Yeah.
Christopher Nolan.
That Christopher Nolan movie, Inception. There's a man running for the train, and he's just taking a shit, and he's trying to reach out for his friend's hand to get onto the train, but as he reaches out, his trousers sag because he's just taken a shit, so he needs to pull his trousers up. And as he pulls his trousers up, he's taking a moment, and the train's getting away from him. And so essentially, in order to catch the train, he has to sacrifice his pride because he was always a shy pooper. And that is essentially what the sort of story of Vince is. If he wants to survive and continue into this world, he does need to drop that desperation for seeking pride amongst peers and the world. So that's, I think, what that scene is about. Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't actually fully catch the stuff that the Russian guy was saying when I was actually watching the film. I should have wound it back, though, to actually make a proper note of it. But that does make sense.
Yeah, it's pretty important. But yeah, I mean, Haroon, I do agree with your take, but I think what's good about that scene is that, like, you could find so much more to it. Yeah, this whole film feels like a parable or like a fable, because it's such like a impossibly perfect metaphor for, like, the society of, like, you're in France, you've got a Jewish guy, an Arab, and a black guy, you know, all having dark associations with, like, France's history. I don't know too much about the shit in, like, the Middle East and what they did, but there's something to do with, like,
Algeria.
All right, am I tripping?
No, I'm no historian.
I don't know.
I can't remember. Whatever Hidden's about when we get to that, I guess I'll do my research there.
That.
Yeah, obviously they were a big colonial power. I'm sure they were heavily in the Middle East. And there's obviously some reason there's a lot of Arabic people in France. And obviously, you know,
they were very big in Africa.
Holocaust. And yeah, exactly, they're big in Africa. So it's like a sort of perfect analogy for the downtrodden by French society. So it doesn't feel real, and not to, like, I don't know, not to say that you can't have such a diverse group of friends, but it's such a perfectly diverse group of three friends. But it somehow feels so real. But it just works perfectly as, like, metaphor for you know, post-colonial France and, you know, the downtrodden of society. I've got it here as well that at the end, sorry to jump about so much, but at the end when he's retelling the story, I've never caught this before, and I've seen this film about 5 times, but at the end he says it's a story of a society falling instead of a man or whatever, and it's like reframes the whole movie. And I got some notes here about that final shot of Hubert and the worst nasty Notre Dame cop, and how, you know, they to me represent how will we land as a society, Will it be justice, or will it be the continual injustice against, you know, minorities and the working class in general? So I don't know. It's a pretty fucking depressing ending because you don't know who dies, and
it's a seriously depressing ending. Yeah.
So there was something I want to say about this because so I was quite surprised by what I found out about this film and about the director after I actually watched it. So the reason why I suggested that we delay it is because I was reading a few interesting articles that actually were really interesting, and I was going down a bit of a rabbit hole. But apparently, according to the director, apparently he didn't intend for this film to be anti-police, which I first thought was really, really strange. But then I was looking back over my notes and I actually watched the film, and I realized that there's something that is a bit off about the film, in that the film. So
it's not anti-police.
So I want
to hear it isn't. It shows that there are some bad officers and some good ones.
Yeah, so this was something else I wanted to raise, because there's that one cop who is trying to look out for these guys, who, I mean, I can't remember his name, but he helps the guy, Saeed, I think he helps him get bail. He's also sort of going after them, saying, like, don't do anything stupid. And I think something else that was interesting was that there are definitely a few scenes where you notice that not all the cops are just white. Like, there are some black cops there as well. And so it's
Cuba even says there are some good cops and some bad cops, but there are no good skinheads. Kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think you can be like... It's pretty stupid, and sorry to all the ACABs out there, including myself, to be fair, but it's pretty stupid to think that all police are evil and that we don't need some sort of law enforcement and people to... But overall, it's institutionally corrupt and nasty, and that's why you get the scene of, like, the rookie, and he's watching them torture the two people, and he's shaking his head, but what's he doing about it? Like,
yeah, that was a really good scene.
He just does nothing about it, and he goes along with it. So it's deeply critical of the police, but yeah, I don't think it's like fucking abolish the police. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think something else that made it even more interesting on that point was that when the cop actually kills Vince, he doesn't even do it deliberately. It's literally an accident.
But he laughs about it.
And you can tell...
Well,
does he laugh?
Yeah, he laughs. He goes like...
murdered somebody. Yeah, he literally...
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah. He's in shock. He is in shock, and then he's like...
He's in shock, but he laughs like... Yeah, but it's sort of like a I'm going to be in trouble type laugh. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when you do something like naughty with your mates. Yeah,
no. He's deeply shocked. I think he's like, fuck, I murdered someone, and it's that serious that he doesn't know what...
I don't know, man.
Now think about it. Given the context, wouldn't it be more like, huh, shit, and his two friends are right there?
Yeah, sort of.
Rather than his cop
colleagues. I don't know. Where does that other cop go in that last bit? He just sort of disappears.
If Hubert doesn't win that standoff, by the way, what's he doing? And also, if you notice, when he does that standoff, he cocks his gun so late.
Yeah,
the moment he cocks his gun, the other person should shoot, really. That should have come like, lock loaded and cocked, and he should have shot him before the other guy could have raised his gun.
I will say one thing about this, and that was that I think that ending, it did give me heavy, like, year 11 drama class vibes. You know what I mean? Like when the two of them just standing each other and there's a monologue and the camera zooms in.
Don't know what you mean.
Like I found that a bit cringy.
I don't find it cringy. It's definitely on the nose, but I don't find it cringy
because
it's what the whole film's about. Yeah, I mean, they literally
the whole
retell
film is quite on the nose too.
Yeah, you can't really miss it.
A black man, an Arab, and a Jew
versus the
go around France against the police. Like, it is pretty on the nose.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Onto all
I
the
wanted
funny
to talk
moments.
about this.
Okay.
Well, I thought maybe we could stick on some of the more serious things, because I don't know how much you guys know about, like, the backlash around this film when it came out, but apparently, like, the media were really, like, not, going along with it, and apparently the director. Well, like, do you think? I don't know, like, because when I'm watching this film, the issue is that because I don't know French, unlike English, so which means that I can actually hear what's going on in the US and listen to, I don't know, various like YouTubers who are in the US, or listen to various news snippets. Like you can actually get a sense of what's going on, and you can actually listen to their political leaders without requiring translation. I don't know about YouTube, but even though France is really nearby, I don't think I actually know like a huge amount about French culture. I would think that if a film like this came out in the UK, I could imagine that there'd be plenty of people like, say, the Mark Commodes who'd probably say, yeah, I love this film. I know the Mark Commode's actually a big fan of Haine as well. But I'd imagine that I think people in the kind of media establishment would actually be more favourable to this. Whereas in France, they were really, really like not okay with this.
I think you're tripping if you think that this exact film came out, but it's set in London. If it's shot for shot the same thing, but it was set in London, absolutely the media would hate it. Nigel Farage would be talking about it non-stop. Fucking all the Tories, the BBC would be like, it's inciting violence and riots, and it's actually saying that it's a good thing. If it was made about like the fucking 2011 London riots, it would be the same backlash. It would
not be allowed.
I think, Nigel Farage definitely wouldn't like it, but I'm thinking of like the main people that I don't know, hear talk about films and whatnot, and I can see people describing it as
because Mark Commode's a big lefty.
A masterpiece, so like
Mark Commode's a lefty.
But I think a lot of like film critic types are quite left wing.
Yeah, film critics, because they're smart and they like good art.
I think politically speaking, the world is more right wing 30 years ago than it is currently now, for sure.
You're tripping.
Yes.
Well,
you
joking? The thing.
Well, yeah, gay marriage was illegal all over America 30 years ago, and now it is not.
But,
and
I think when you think about European countries,
right wing, we don't have a left wing party anymore in this country. We don't really have it in America. France is a big, massive far right fucking president at the moment. It's not got better. I'm not saying it's more right, but it's definitely
It has actually improved though, hasn't it? Because
gay marriage is
drastically
allowed,
improved, and there is actually less racism in England than there used to be 30 years ago.
But this is what I mean about France, because I've got an auntie who lives in France, and I've heard various snippets from like her time there, but I just don't really know very much about the country. I mean, I don't know. Like, what would you guys say you know about France? Like,
what would you here?
Like, how knowledgeable would you say you are?
What do I know about France?
Like, how knowledgeable would you say you are of like French culture? Because I don't know. Watching this film, I was
chop off the heads of the royals and riot a lot. They love a good riot.
Ask me some trivia. Paris is the capital. More like... It borders Spain. And
there's a
Monaco.
film festival.
There's a film festival in Cannes. Cannes is south. What's
they
the
always get standing ovation.
What do I know about like French culture? Like, probably as much as I know about
how
Spanish
well do you think you know
German
France?
Culture.
Because I think I know British culture quite well, obviously, because I'm from here. But I'd also say that I know a decent amount about American culture. But I think when it comes to countries that don't speak English, for me, I think there's a big barrier. And so I think seeing a film like Haine, where you actually see various characters who are meant to be depicting different sides of society.
You should watch more French movies.
Pretty refreshing. Okay, but so this is my point. Do you think that, unlike me, you know like French culture quite well?
No.
I've visited France all my life, to be honest. I've probably gone once a year.
Same, but I still don't think I know that much about the country.
I think I do.
Socio-economic, political dynamic.
I don't know much about this. I don't know anything about any of that. But I know like cities and places and stuff.
Yeah, that's not what he's asking, Haroon. Sorry. Where do you go skiing, Haroon? Do you want to tell us what mountain you like? Let's move on. Yeah, I don't know much about French culture. What I know is from Haine and Michael Haneke movies and other French films I've seen. I know they're big racists like us and did colonialism, and that's bad, and have a lot of
it's the same
stuff
thing.
to answer
They're
for.
the same as us. They just speak French.
But they speak different and eat different food.
It's the same thing. If you met a French person, I think from my...
And they killed their royals.
If you're asking about the scope of my cultural knowledge of France, it most likely stems from the manager of Arsenal, Arsene Wenger, and French people that I've known, gone to school with, and grown up with, and generally they are.
You went to school with French people?
Yeah, there were French people in my school. Yes, I didn't go to school in Wales where there were no French people, I guess.
Yeah,
I know a French guy called Jean Baptiste.
So let's move on.
Yeah. Can we talk about all the funny stuff and how this is maybe the funniest movie ever made? It's actually hilarious. I was listening to a podcast today and they were saying like, "Oh, this shit's so depressing. It's like one of the most depressing and upsetting films I've ever seen." I'm like, I'm laughing through 90% of this movie.
Finish.
It's
maybe not to
fucking
finish.
hilarious. Yeah, last 5 minutes is not... No, but even at the end when he's like, "Fuck you, Batman," and then he's like, "I heard that, but it was a rabbi." Like, it's so funny.
Yeah, the dialogue's brilliant.
So
there is a really good. There are so many good moments. I have a whole list of good moments here. So when Vince and Saeed first come to Hubert's boxing ring, they both like stand up like from the garage, and the shot is empty, and then Vince comes up like this, and then Saeed's like, and they both sort of like looking around. That's funny.
Mm-hmm. How'd they get the car in there?
Yeah, that's funny. So Saeed's telling a story about how he had sex with this woman, and that somebody was knocking on the door trying to tell them to keep it down. And then Vince is like, "You were dreaming that." And then Saeed's like, "No, I wasn't dreaming that." And then Vince is like, "I know the bitch you fucked. She's got AIDS."
I don't remember this. I've seen this 5 or 6 times, and I don't remember that.
It's just so funny.
And what I did find funny was when Vince was trying to cut, what's he called, Saeed's hair.
Yeah,
and they could say, "Don't ruin it, don't ruin it," and then he definitely ruined it. Like, he should have just not cut it.
When he like holds the mirror up, trying to not show him.
So like, I
Great
just
fucking...
perfect.
The second guy coming out the toilet after the little fella, like poking his head around.
Oh yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
Gone. Fantastic.
Oh yes,
punchline.
I know that.
The whole Asterix scene.
Because by the way, that is definitely what a normal guy would have done. Like the fact that this short Russian guy just walked out after hearing everything they'd said. Like, yeah, if it was me, I just would have been that second guy for sure.
It's great. It's fucking funny as hell.
Saeed stealing shit from the grocery store is really good as well. He's just like packing his pockets. All the high scenes are really good when they get high and they see Huber punch in the boxing bag and things go in slow motion. It's just shot beautifully, and the sound design is like good as well.
Yeah, that slow motion shot when he's with the boxing bag, that is cool.
I actually just want to watch this again.
Yeah, me too.
I watched it last night and I want to watch it again. The drunk guy.
One, but you go first.
The drunk guy at the car. That's the best scene ever. The whole carjacking scene is probably the most fucking hilarious scene I've seen in a movie.
The blue wires, the honk.
yeah. It's like Saeed's right.
On the bus, there's a beggar asking people for money, and then she asks Saeed, and he goes, No, I don't have any money. My mum's in jail, my dad's in jail, my whole family's in jail. Get a job like everyone else.
It's great. I did put as a note that none of them give to the homeless people. They get asked by 3 different people for some money. Yeah. And all of them say no, which I just think says something about, like, you know, the moral complexity.
Also, in the art gallery, that whole scene in the art gallery is fantastic.
That is so
like, Can
funny.
You go get me this? It's so good. And then the girls, he walks over and he's like, "Right, well, can we fuck? When can we fuck?" Basically. And they're like, "Oh, you men are all the same." And then he just starts getting like really pissed off and angry and like physically aggressive. And then they're being escorted out, and he was like, "Well, everyone relax." And as they move out, they start just destroying the place. And Vince is like, "Excusez-moi," and he smashes the bottle. Huber just tips over the fucking painting, and then he said, and they all I
wanted to ask you both about this because I was quite surprised that Hubert behaved that way, but were you not?
No.
To a degree, because he's the most moral character, but I think the whole film is about it's just contemplating violence as a outlet for frustration against the class system in which we live in. Because
yes, however, the art gallery is, I think, seemingly from what we are shown, a very fickle and shallow,
snobby
piece of nonsense,
and full of rich idiots who are up their own arse.
It's full of nonsense. Yeah, exactly.
And they can't imagine giving a fuck about this shit because their friend's dying in the hospital because they were beat to death by the fucking government. Like, it's not good because obviously they're rude to the women as well. It's not good. It's definitely funny, but it's not good. But we understand it because we can empathize with, wow, these rich people are here drinking champagne, eating free food, looking at a fucking rabbit nailed to the wall while our friend's dying in hospital. Do you know what I mean? It's a complex
he's
moral
well
movie.
Within his exactly. Ethically for Huber, there is so much extremity to the world and so much pain that something like tipping over a little painting in an art gallery full of cunts is so profoundly meaningless and arguably an ethical thing to do. So
well, I won't go that far.
But it's about perspective. But it is. No, but I would go that far. I actually would. I think it's all about perspective. I think you're, in terms of ethics... No, in the sense that
I wouldn't go so far as to say that's an ethical action.
No, I wouldn't say to do that is a good thing, but I wouldn't necessarily say to do that is a bad thing.
It's not evil.
What? He just contradicts himself now.
No, I'm not. Some things can be neutral.
I don't think that's neutral. I think it's bad. And I think it strikes me as out of character. And I think there was something else that also struck me out of character about Huber. Was, when the three of them go to that guy's room and he's looking outside the window and says, they just torched my car. I've got barely any money. They just torched my car.
Fucked.
And I wasn't at all surprised. I wasn't at all surprised how little Vince cared. But again, I was quite surprised by how much Huber was laughing in his face.
But he's had his gym destroyed, and he understands that it's just a consequence. Yeah, he's had it worse, but he understands that it's just a consequence of the. Yeah, but he sees the bigger picture of sorry that my neighbours are upset that one of our neighbours got killed by the police. You get me?
Someone's been murdered.
Yeah, I'm
my
just
entire
surprised
gym's been burnt
face,
down.
though.
Your car got burnt down. Right, fuck you then. you got to move your lens of perspective, narrow it down to his character in order to understand him a bit more. Obviously, we've watched this film quite a few times, so we're able to quite easily tap into the personas that are present in this film. But when inevitably, would you watch this film again?
Oh, I would, yeah. And but I think if I'm going to watch this again, when I watch this again, I want to go into it knowing a lot more about just the general uproar around it, and the making of it as well, because I think it is interesting, and I think my appreciation of this film has definitely gone up after hearing about just the way people responded to it. And
didn't you see in that article that I guess you read this article after, but in that article it said that over 300 people were killed by the police in accidents by the Paris police in the 10 years leading up to the film.
Yeah, and this is the thing, I should say, the reason why I was asking you both about how much you think you know about French culture is because a story like that, never would have heard about it unless I was watching Haine. That's the thing. Whereas, okay, fair enough.
I see.
But they still do it.
I understand.
Whereas in the US,
right, that's why you were asking earlier.
Yeah. Whereas if it's something in the US, I know that the US, you do have police shootings that are deemed to be unjust. Whereas I never hear about it from France. Maybe it's reported. I don't listen to the news very often, but
I've got a funny note. So at this point, I've watched this film on Amazon in the cinema and on the DVD that I have, which is a Studio Canal DVD. So I've had this film. I've had this film with 3 different subtitles, and this one was really funny. So this one, the first one I watched was clearly American because they kept saying like, instead of Asterix, they kept calling him Snoopy.
Oh, okay.
Which is
I need to ask you both about this. You know when they made the joke about how, oh yeah, no, Asterix isn't in, but Obelisk is in. I did find that quite funny. But did you have those comic book strips at school? Yeah, that was good.
I used to read them. But yeah, so the first one I had called Snoopy. Then I think the second one that me and Haroon watched in the cinema, that must have been the BFI one. I'm trying to think. I think BFI must be the best translation because this one I had now was so funny. They kept trying to make it really British. Like they'd be like, "You slag." They kept calling the police the filth.
Oh, they called them pigs on my one, and I watched the BFI version as well.
I got Snoopy and pigs.
They kept being like bloke and mate, like, "Oh, this bloke said this, my mate said this."
That's stupid. I hate that.
And at one point, I think for Ben, they'd be saying Hercules. They're like, at least Hercules is black, I think they say. So in mine,
Black Hercules.
It was Dennis and Nasha.
What?
From Dennis the Menace and Nasha the dog from the Beano. They were like, at least Nasha's black or something like that. I just find it so funny.
Did you watch this?
On my Blu-ray. It's so funny.
Oh,
I don't know why they can't just translate it.
So you've got the... Is it just the Haine Blu-ray, not the BFI Blu-ray?
Yeah. I got it from CEX just because it was there. And it was fucking more expensive than that BFI one. It's so annoying. When I found out that you bought that for like £7.
Yeah, it was on sale on HMV. Oh man, I've bought so many things for Black Friday. I think I bought over 100 quid's worth of Blu-ray discs.
Crazy.
So much I got.
That's crazy.
Worth every penny as well.
Our closing points for Haine. Maybe even crossover with Memento. If anyone can, I think I did have something for that I mentioned earlier on. If anyone can remember my point, it was very half thought of though. What was it?
Don't remember. This film is the most beautiful film ever. The black and white photography is amazing. I think I might have said this on the podcast before, and I was wrong. I think previously I thought it was black and white because it's cheaper, but apparently they filmed it in colour and changed it to black and white in post.
No way.
That's the best scene.
What about it? Yeah, fantastic, perfect, beautiful.
My favourite scene.
My favourite shot might be on the hood of the BMW. Or when fucking they're killing the guy and Vince is like shocked at them killing him. That's beautiful. Them coming down the stairs. Every single shot is perfect. It blows my mind. Yeah. I've got another rant to go on, if you'll indulge me.
I do have one. I have one thing that I'd like to ask all of you. Ben definitely might have missed out on this one, but Matt, maybe you've got some thoughts on this. I'd like to all of us go around and perhaps give what we think about the meaning of the cow in the movie is.
I don't have a clue.
Yeah, what is this about? Because I remember watching this.
We'll make one up then. We're going to go around and we're all going to make one up.
Make one up?
Okay, I'll go first. I think the cow is there because they all have beef.
That's good. I was going to say that I think the cow is there because they all have beef.
Ben?
The cow's there because Vince is tripping.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Zero aura. Right, anyways.
Yeah, I do want to go on a little rant, and I think if I ever upload a video essay to this channel, it'll be this, because I don't quite have my thoughts fully formulated on this yet. But I love this film's relationship with hip hop, because I'm a big hip hop head.
I was going to bring up the breakdance scene.
Yeah, the breakdance scene is one of it. There's other stuff like the whole soundtrack. I mean, it's funk, it's soul. Yeah, so the film's relationship with hip hop, I'm just a big hip hop fan, um, and I like it because one, it's fundamentally built off sampling and re the reappropriation of culture that comes before it. Um, it's the voice of the voiceless, and it's a pretty low barrier to entry to make this art because back in the day when it started, all you needed was uh, two records and a turntable, and to be able to loop one. Um, and so I think it ties in beautifully with what makes this film good, in that it does give a microphone to those voiceless in society and pays homage to hip hop and the culture surrounding it and the community surrounding it. So you get that dance, the breakdance sequence, and you get the guy DJing to the whole fucking block. Speakers right up to the window. He's playing. He's got the samples of all the "Fuck the Police" thing. Quick side note on that: the French "Fuck the Police" song in that features Vincent Cassel's brother, who was in that band, which is crazy. Crazy. It's obviously got that old fucking wartime song, so it like ties directly in with France's cultural identity. The main sample is the sample used in Machine Gun Funk by Biggie. He's got a Cypress Hill t-shirt on. It's just amazing. Just amazing. I love it a lot, and I think it means so much. Also, that shot where the fucking camera goes out and then round the block is crazy.
Yeah.
I think they did it on a wire. I don't know how the fuck they did that shit, but it's crazy.
I thought it was a helicopter shot.
Yeah, you'd think, but it couldn't be because it's between buildings. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast where they said it was a like mini early drone, but it's not apparently. I was googling it. It said it was like wire work. The sampling in this film itself, I don't have too much of a context for. I was listening to a podcast where they said there's a lot of like visual references in the film to other older films, but I didn't pick up on them. But obviously, there's the big Taxi Driver one, which I think ties very well with Vincent's character and the archetype of Travis Bickle as well, because Vincent he's the most angry at society. He wants to lash out with violence. Obviously, he's not Travis Bickle.
I actually disagree. I don't think he is the most angry at society. I think
we learn he's not.
Anger to get on a pedestal in order to try and to try and fill his ego with something.
I agree. I agree that's like the end of the character arc.
I think Huber is the most angry at society. To be honest, like truthfully, genuinely, Vince isn't fundamentally.
He wants to be, but it's the angst of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's the white angst of it all, as is with Travis Bickle. There's a lot of references to there's only one where he's like, oh, this is how they do their hair in New York and stuff. So obviously that's a big ties into hip hop. That's where hip hop began. There's one more thing. It's somewhere in my notes. Oh, The World Is Yours, which is one, I think the thesis of the film is when he scribbles it out and puts The World Is Ours. But that's one from Scarface, which is a movie about capitalism and immigrant story and America's the American dream and whatnot. And rappers love it. Literally, they talk about it all the fucking time. And there's also a Nas song called The World Is Yours. And so, yeah, I mean, if I can formulate these thoughts into a better argument, then I'd love to make a video about this. But I think it's just why I love the film so much.
I think there is definitely room for a little 10-minute video essay from this podcast with Haine. It is so deep, and I absolutely love it. And I think it works really well with our podcast because both these movies, Memento and Haine, are frankly incredibly accessible and have lots of layers. They're very, very
and
deep
complex
movies.
In different ways as well.
Yeah, but they're accessible, but it's excessively complex, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
And they're so watchable. Haine is such a watchable movie. And we're going on and on and on about this, Ben. And you're like, not sure if I got that. Not sure if I got that. Not sure if I got that. But on rewatches...
I'm not saying that. I'm just not saying anything.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
Like, you guys are praising it a lot. I'm thinking, I liked it.
Yeah, but we've seen it so many times.
Yeah, we've seen it a lot. We've seen this movie quite.
So it's just that there's so much so many layers in there that you can pick up and appreciate on rewatches, and it's amazing on a first watch as well.
Yeah, I did like it on the first watch.
I think that's all my thoughts. Ben, have you got any more closing statements? And then we need to, give these beautiful pieces of art a number.
I did like Haine. I like I said, I don't think I definitely didn't love it in the same way that you two did. Probably wouldn't say I loved it at all, but I did like it. Liked it a fair bit. And in fact, I think out of all the films that we've done as like a comparison, and I'm not going to include Eyes Wide Shut here because that was more like a third wheel film.
Yeah,
I think F for Fake was the.
Yeah, this is the only one you've liked more, then, right?
Yeah, well, this is definitely the only one I've liked more. Yeah, this is of all the ones I can think of, this is probably my favorite. Which is nice because I like the fact that I do actually like the film that I prefer to Memento, because to be honest, the bar is really low for Memento when it comes to enjoyment for me. That I think most films would have sufficed, but I'm pretty glad that I actually did like this film.
Oh, you drive me crazy. So, what would you give it out of 10? What would you give them both out of
10? I think Haine, once I actually heard about how relevant it was to France and how much of a rabbit hole I'm going down, I'm going to give it an 8 because I do really like that aspect of it.
That was my benchmark for not coming to Swindon and murdering you.
God. Thank God it's an 8.
I texted Haine earlier.
Yeah.
So I know the chat we said 6 out of 10. And to be honest with you, I think if it was just after my viewing experience of it, I would have given it a 7.
You're doing well here, mate. I wouldn't.
Yeah. But then
I actually wouldn't.
But then actually reading into it and actually getting a lot of knowledge about this, it's an 8. I do like it, and it's really nicely shot.
Okay.
Thank God.
And credit where it's due.
That's it. That's it. You're doing really well. That's
so
it.
Nice.
Good. Just leave that there. Fuck.
And Memento?
It really isn't a 7.
Oh, Memento.
Give it a fucking 3. We don't care about your thoughts on Memento.
I really like you, Christopher Nolan. You're my favorite director, but I really don't like Memento.
Go on. Give it a 3.
I'm giving him a 4 out of 10. And those 4 points are purely for style. I really don't like Memento. I actively dislike it. Really good though, really good aesthetically, as insofar as I can comment on it in that capacity. But
really good
movie. Not my thing. Not my thing.
Great
don't
film.
like it.
Didn't enjoy it.
What about you, Haine? Then let's give your numbers.
Haine 10 out of 10. Memento.
Yeah.
It can be a 9. It can be a 9. It sits at an 8 for me, but it can be a 9, and it could be a 10, but it's not a 7. So I'm gonna give it an 8. Yeah. But it could be a 9.
I'm in the same boat as Haroon. It's 9 for me. Memento, I go 9 out of 10, and on another watch, on my third watch, because I've only seen it twice, it might be a 10. Definitely. It's neck and neck with The Prestige for his second best movie so far. I still think The Dark Knight might remain on top, but it could be a 10 for real. But for now, we're gonna go with 9. And Haine is a perfect 10 out of 10, the best movie ever, apart from Goodfellas. Yeah, perfect. What can I fucking say?
10. Haine is such a clean 10 as well though. I've noticed with Nolan so far, I think I've probably got The Prestige at number 1, and then Dark Knight at number 2, and then Memento at number 3 at the moment. Those are my top 3, I think.
I think at the moment for me, it's The Prestige, and in terms of the actual numbers, it is The Dark Knight and then Batman Begins. But honestly, I think those two are just so interchangeable. I like them both so much.
Sorry. Can you say that again?
I think
I kind of have some selective hearing going on here.
Top 3 are Prestige, then Dark Knight. Technically, Prestige and Dark Knight are drawn because they're both 10 out of 10, but I do just prefer the Prestige. And then third is Batman Begins with 9 out of 10. But to be honest with you,
that's crazy.
On the day, depending on the day, I could have given Batman Begins a 10. I love Batman Begins so much.
I don't know. I have like loads of extra things that I want to say about Haine. I could sit here in my chair and just talk about Haine to a brick wall for like 2 hours probably. I just really love this film. I love all when at the start they're just like quietly sat down, not really talking to each other. They're just sat there, and then
I like it at the end as well,
moment...
bro.
No, yeah. There isn't
when they're on the bus back or.
Yeah, but there's a moment at the start. Well, some moments they're just sat there doing nothing for nothing's sake, and other moments Vince is actually praying, and Saeed and Tuba are just being like quiet respectfully. And then the next scene is Saeed like, yeah, I fucking fuck this bitch. And then this guy next door kept banging on the door, and he was like, that didn't happen. You live in a fucking fairyland, mate. And Vince's like, oh yeah, I know her. She's got AIDS. It's just funny as fuck.
There's so much we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about the neo-Nazi.
Yeah, that happened. That's
There's
how
so
rich
much.
The movie is. That's how rich the movie is.
The scene of Vince dancing.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Right at the beginning. It's great. Such like playful filmmaking as well. The zoom in on his ring that says Vince. Fucking hell. I could talk about this for actual days.
It's endless. Like there's that story that little kid is telling Vince. And he's really trying to pay attention, and so he's just like throwing rocks, and it's literally this boring story, like possibly ever told. And I thought I could maybe try and recite that story for us now as an outro. So there's a celebrity on a reality TV called Caught on Candid, and the celebrity is under the impression that he is in fact on camera, but he's actually just not outwardly trying to show it. And so as time kind of goes on, they take him to a restaurant, and one of his friends starts acting out and being a bit weird, trying to get him to provoke some sort of reaction. But the celebrity like keeps his calm and stays cool. God, it is such a boring story. I knew it would be. So yeah, that's the outro. You can cut all that out. Fucking load of shit. All right. Okay.
Bye, guys. That's the end of the episode, guys. Bye.